Thanks for tuning into this session. I'm Steve Bentley. I'm a pre-sales consultant with Shibumi, and today we're going to be talking about establishing a continuous transformation discipline. We've been doing a lot of research, and we've come across some pretty interesting statistics related to the Fortune 2000 space and as it relates to transformation. In fact, 52% of the Fortune 500 companies from the year 2000 have disappeared. That's due to a number of factors, but those are pretty compelling findings, and that tell us that trend is only going to continue into the future. In terms of transformation, 5 years ago, and by the way, we've been doing this for 12 years in the tech space as a software company, working with the top 10 advisory firms, as well as hundreds of direct clients who leverage our software tools to help them manage their transformation programs. But in the last 5 years, it's really been changing as companies are beginning to spin up their own transformational organizations in-house. They're also building those teams, and they're using tools and technology to help manage the ongoing transformation. And because of that, that's where we see that big shift to constant transformation, whether that be through change management for running the business, or as well as new ideas, new concepts, or reworking things in the operational functioning of the business itself to achieve goals. It could be cost takeout, it could be revenue, it could be dynamically shifting the output and how revenue is generated for an organization. Some insights that are pretty compelling that we've determined or we discovered in the space is that 70% of organizations are going through large-scale transformation right now. 80% of the transformation offices that we've encountered are actually growing. So they're hiring new staff to help manage the amount of transformation programs and initiatives that are funneling through that organization. 75% have seen material compression in planning cycles, so this change is happening at a much faster rate. But what's most concerning is that most companies and organizations don't have, they don't feel that they have the data that's necessary to make informed decisions and being able to adapt to those shifting priorities. Some of the principles that we found to be successful for transformation are as follows. Basically, starting with leadership, right? Making sure we're all aligned company-wide on what the goals and objectives are, and then aligning the work that we're doing to those for execution. Having a transformational discipline, that's everything from the ideation phase, so we're coming up with ideas, all the way to value realization and repeating that cycle where necessary until we're constantly monitoring the outcomes and improving upon those if we can. Establishing a centralized improvement team and methodology. So having a methodology in place and having a team that follows it so it becomes a discipline within the organization. And of course, leveraging technology to help with that. Most tools are strictly focused on project management or very legacy type of functions that are necessary, but don't provide the visibility into what's going to happen 6 months from now with the current run rate for your work that you're executing that's in progress, and having enough ideas to support the objectives and goals the organization is set out to accomplish. At Shibumi, we can handle a lot of different use cases in terms of our platform and what we're able to help organizations with. There's a number of different transformation type programs like business transformation, digital transformation, cost transformation. There's several other use cases that we can also help with, and we're happy to discuss those at another time. But kind of getting into more of the transformation that we're going to focus on today, we really see this regardless of industry. Across the board, our clients typically follow this life cycle, and really it's coming to setting out your objectives, right? What are we going to accomplish? Defining those outcomes, those goals, so everybody knows what we're marching towards. Once we define that, how are we going to get there? Everyone can come up with ideas. Department heads are tasked with going out and researching and looking at their areas of responsibility to get more ideas and hopefully be able to quantify that with a value, a benefit value, what it might take to execute that. Really building that business case and expanding that as much as necessary to get the pertinent information and details so that we can then use data to rank and prioritize what objectives are aligned to the best initiatives, and those initiatives can be scored and ranked, as well as compared to other ideas that may or may not, carry the same amount of benefit or the same amount of risk or whatever criteria you're looking to weigh against. That exercise can be simplified with a tool like Shibumi, where you can use things like a bubble chart to see very simply, which objectives or which ideas have the biggest value and are able to be executed with the least amount of risk and offer the overall greatest benefit. So once we decide on those, we can promote those and execute on those. The project work might be happening in a completely different tool. That's okay. We can pull all that data into Shibumi via a simple connector integration. We'll monitor and measure constantly. In some cases, we might find that the work is not leading up to our goals and objectives, that a strategic alignment is not what we thought it would be. We might need to kill a project midstream, but save us the trouble, because what we found is that 70% of transformation programs fail to deliver on the expected outcomes. And that's because we do all this work, invest the time, money, and resources, only to find out later that it didn't happen, right? And so if we can catch that ahead of time, we can make changes. Maybe it's switching out priorities, maybe it's pulling a project and replacing it with something else, but we're able to see that before it becomes a problem. And ongoing, we're tracking the benefit, right? That's a part of that piece, is we're understanding at every point along the way when we'll start recognizing a return on investment. We might not have to wait till the end of the project to be completed before we start recognizing value. And we see a lot of that with automations and AI type initiatives, where we can start recognizing value while the project is still in execution phase. And so being able to get very granular with that level of realization is important too. Also, the adverse is true. If benefits aren't being realized at the pace and towards our forecast, we need to figure out why that is and make changes, or let's go back to the hopper and put some more ideas through, and maybe we need to go through a reprioritization again. But this wheel really helps us understand kind of that life cycle, and we can always go back and make changes along the way to keep up with the pace of transformation. So how about at this point we go through a live demonstration? I'll show you Shibumi, and we can kind of dive into some of these concepts with some views into the tool itself. We're looking at a demonstration instance of Shibumi. This is web browser based, and what we're looking at here are my objectives, kind of following that life cycle wheel that I showed you. These are what the organization has set out, and here I can clearly see in a visual what those are, and I can also identify the work and the initiatives and projects that are aligned to those. So in order to identify IT infrastructure goal, I have to deploy a new finance system, right? So I have that clear tracking of my initiatives and projects to the work at hand. As we kind of go down the life cycle wheel, a transformation office, a program manager, a CIO might want to see the overall aggregate view and a real-time status of everything that's happening in the organization. I can see my benefit, my actuals against my forecast, and compare and contrast. All this data is being provided by real-time feeds from data input directly into Shibumi and/or data coming from other systems like a financial tool, like a project management tool. I can see real specific information about various work streams, such as finance or IT in this example. I can use red, amber, green status indicators to help me identify potential risk projects that might be in place. I have that full visibility, including ownership and as well as what stage a particular initiative might be in. In terms of my rank and prioritization, I can see everything in my pipeline, all the ideas that are coming in. Shibumi put together this graph for me, this bubble chart that helps me understand what ideas might generate the most benefit for me. So this data is very valuable in making those decisions about what projects and investments I should make versus those that might be less of a benefit driver and more risk to the organization. I can see very clearly this customer retention initiative will offer me the most benefit with the highest value and the least amount of complexity. I should very seriously consider that one. And so using Shibumi for the rank and prioritization helps us make data-driven decisions. And then because all the intake is happening through Shibumi, I have all the ideas in one place. I could then promote those ideas and use governance to track the approvals. So as the ideas come into place, I understand who needs to approve what, and I have all that in one location for reference. In addition to the approvals and workflow governance, I can also track all my project and initiative financials for my entire portfolio. So looking at this view, I can see a breakout of all my financial benefits and where they might fall, whether they be capital, operating, or other. I can see my tracking towards my targets, and I can interact with these dashboards to understand more detailed views. If I just want to look at everything but capital and gross margin, I have the ability to toggle those, for example. These achievement cards across the top, these are showing me my net benefit, my annual targets, so real-time information that's updated based on all the data that's in Shibumi. In addition to financials, I might want to track non-financial metrics or goals as well, or even KPIs. In this case, I'm tracking a employee satisfaction score, a net promoter score, and I can use this as a dashboard to input the information, or this data might be held in another system and flows into Shibumi, but I can reveal that to my organization through one platform. My roadmap, this is giving me full visibility into all the work that I'm doing by work stream. I can have different views set up in Shibumi. So IT, CIO might just want to see the IT related work efforts, while a transformation officer or a portfolio manager might want to look at the aggregate view of everything. And we handle that through roles and permissions within Shibumi. This roadmap allows me to clearly identify anything that's at risk. So I need to investigate this initiative launch because I can see that's in red status. So I'll check with those project teams. We can also use notifications via business rules. So there's trigger points so that we can spot anomalies ahead of time and notify the appropriate individuals via email and within the Shibumi app. I can track my risks and issues and report up any level of the hierarchy within Shibumi. So here I'm tracking a number of issues, and I can understand and determine what's very high and what's very likely to happen, which are very good indicators that there might be a major problem with some of the work that I'm doing. Reporting and dashboarding is at the core of what we do in Shibumi. There's unlimited number of different dashboards that you could build, as well as predefined ones that we typically see as very common reporting methods. So for example, I have my initiative pipeline. I can see my current status bubbles and at what phase each initiative is. I can also see my things like my run rate by my various work streams as well. So having those real-time dashboards that are updated for me automatically is a big time saver. Being able to aggregate that data is very helpful, and it saves a lot of fire drills in terms of data reporting. And we're also tracking all the most important components, such as your benefit realization and tracking your financials in one place in the organization. This is a progress dashboard that's showing me status updates, very summarized view. An executive might log into Shibumi and just see something like this, and that's all they have to look at. I didn't have to prepare a report. However, there are ways to consolidate information and provide those to viewers within the organization. We have a presentation builder right as part of the Shibumi solution. So I can have presentation templates for my steering committee meetings and other regular cadence meetings already predefined. When it's time for the meeting, all I have to do is lock in the data, hit the play button. Shibumi builds the agenda slide for me. Because all the data that I'm presenting is already in Shibumi, I can just run through the slide deck, talk about the current components and share details about the dashboards and charts that you're seeing. But all this was already put together for me within Shibumi. So very helpful in being able to present information, communicate effectively. I could also send this to someone in a PDF if they weren't able to participate. It makes for a very easy communication platform throughout the organization. Well, I hope you found this helpful today. We would love to talk more about some of the things that we offer and that can be specifically catered to your organizational needs. Feel free to pause here and scan any of the QR codes below for more information, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for your time.